Okay, thank you so much for being here after the nice party yesterday. I want to thank all these people with whom I collaborated throughout the years and with whom nothing that I will present would have been possible. So I changed my topic because we are post-party. You'll see I've simplified it. Money, good or bad? So it's going to be quite simple. You can take up your phone because I'll have 3 Menti questions, so www.menti.com. But first, I'm going to ask you a question since you have your schedules in hand. Did you remember what you were doing this year on January 2nd at exactly 11:47? And why am I asking you this? At 11:47 on January 2nd, the 100 richest Canadians have earned what a normal Canadian earned in a year. Okay, so this is just to put things in perspective. So next is my Menti question. I will ask you to take your yearly salary, try to approximate it in euros, the exact number is not important, and divide it by 7,200,000. And then that answer, I want you to shoot it to me on the screen. And I'll tell you after what it is. So do the calculation, and then go on menti.com. The code is 80789, and then you can shoot your answers. So I can clearly see that we are post-party. One person, okay. Not enough. Okay, maybe it's too complicated. I'll have other Menti questions. Okay, so if we can go back to the slides, please. What exactly is this? That number, your yearly salary divided by 7,200,000, is your salary by the second. So is it motivating? Not that much, okay? Other interesting things about money. In that research, they took the lottery question. The lottery question goes like this: if you would have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life, would you continue working? 76.3% of people would continue working even though they don't need the money. So money is only but one category of reasons why we work. I'm going to give you some other examples of money in real life. So you must know the company Bombardier, who sells trains and planes. But Bombardier, Joseph Armand Bombardier, the founder of the company, that's what he invented. So there's my snow picture from Canada there. That's the Skidoo, so the snowmobile. We think that he invented it so that he would sell it and make money, but it's actually a quite sad story. One of his sons died of an appendicitis during winter. He couldn't bring his son to the hospital, so he died, and he said no parents should live this, so he invented that machine so people wouldn't get stuck. So money is but one reason. Another example, the Wright brothers who invented the plane. Those are 2 brothers who were owning a bicycle shop, and with $1,000, they made the first plane that flew. At the exact same time, the US government funded the Langley project. They had 50 times more money, and they never succeeded. So with little means, they were able to build that fantastic machine. So money is part of the equation, but not everything in the equation. So SDT tells us that intrinsic and identified motivation leads to more positive outcomes. Introjected and extrinsic leads to harsher outcomes, shall I say. And what you want is to increase what's on top and decrease what's below. And for measuring the different types of motivation, along with Marilyn Gagné, we have the multidimensional work motivation scale. So it started in 7 languages. We now have it in 22 different languages and soon 26 different languages. And it behaves more or less in the same way, in that intrinsic and identified leads to positive outcomes, and introjected and extrinsic leads to negative outcomes. So the 3 basic needs, you know them. oftentimes when I present this in businesses, people in companies ask me, is it worth it, to increase employee happiness? And some managers couldn't care less if their employees are happy or not. They will ask, show me the money. So for those of you who went to Marcus Müller's presentation, that's what he did, the economic value added. And we also did the same thing in a book chapter we published, where using econometrics analysis, we show that investing in increasing the right types of motivation brings $3.19 of either decreased spending, for example, on health, absenteeism, and also in increasing performance. So we took the economists by their own words and we translated research results in money. And that's a good, it increases the receptivity. Other tricks I use to increase receptivity, because we had a talk with consultants yesterday, is to tell the story we had at the Sochi Olympics, where with SDT we were able to get 2 Olympic medals, so gold and silver. So that's a nice story to tell. So if you are in the business world, taking example in the sports domain really helps. Also another thing, we have a research partnerships with the Canadian Armed Forces where they use SDT to measure army morale, and they presented it at the NATO Congress. So having different ways of showing that SDT works usually help. So the positive on top, the negative below, and the whole topic of my talk is this. Can money be good and or bad? So I'm going to give you some ideas, and I would want you to ask questions after. So can money or extrinsic motivation brings performance and or well-being? So we'll have a look at some research results we had with work motivation. So this is a paper we published with Sarah Geneviève Trépanier and Claude Fernet and Stéphanie Austin at Université du Québec à Trois-Rivières. This is a study we did with nurses where in Quebec, nurses are asked to do mandatory overtime. So they work for 12 hours, they want to go home, but their boss will tell them, you're not going home, you continue working, but then we pay them overtime, so 150% or 200% of their salaries. So increasing demands increases psychological need, frustration, but then we compensate by giving more money, so it increases controlled motivation. Green arrow, positive links, red arrow, negative links. So controlled motivation increases psychological distress, it increases somatic complaints, reduces commitment, and reduces performance. While on the other hand, resources increase psychological need satisfaction, motivation, commitment, and performance. Within that JDR model, the Jump, the Bend resource model, recently they split demands in 2 different things. So challenge and hindrances. So Anya Olafsen published a nice paper on this. This is the thesis of Laurence Crevier-Bro. So challenges are demands which are namely challenging. You want them, so you will spend effort, but you'll have fun doing it. Hindrances are obstacles, things you want to push away from your life, and resources are either psychological, emotional, or physical. So you can see the path that increasing challenges and increasing resources is the key to increase psychological need satisfaction, and then you harvest more commitment, less burnout, more performance, and less deviant behavior such as lying, cheating, and taking overtime. So it seems that to increase performance, you need to channel through either need satisfaction and or autonomous motivation. When we talk about money, one of the things that people in the compensation industry will tell you is that you need to pay your top performer more than your low performer. So how much should we pay people more? Each year, Oxfam has a report, and this year they showed that 26 individuals, the 26 richest individual on earth, have as much money as the 3.5 billion poorest. So 26 individuals have enough money to take the whole humanity out of poverty. So should they be paid that much? Is it bad to have a high salary? That's the topic of the book by Wilkinson and Pickett, Why Equality is Better for Everyone. And you see on the bottom part, that's the income of the different countries, the average income. And then you have the social problems index. The higher you are, the more problems you have. So you see there's no clear relationship between how much money you make and social problems. When we talk about social problems, what are they? Child health, social trust, anxiety, depression, mental health problem, substance consumption, life expectancy, obesity, literacy, unwanted teenage pregnancies, school bullying, imprisonment rate, social mobility, pollution, creativity, recycling, and violent crimes. So those are the social problems that are involved in this index. So there was no clear relationship between money and social problem. When you put inequalities in, when you compare the top richest to the poorest, the 1/5 and 1/5, this is where you see a clear line of social problem. The more discrepancy you have either within a family, an organization, a department, or a country, the more problems you'll harvest. So yes, you need to differentiate salaries, but maybe we're doing it too much. And how much should we pay a lay worker to compare to a top CEO, for example? Kiakponzan and Norton did a study with 50,000 people in 40 different countries, asking them, namely that question: how much should CEO be paid? How much do government employees should be paid? How much the prime minister or president should be paid compared to the lowest? And it's universal. If you're right wing, left wing, no differences whatsoever. The multiplicative ratio is 4.6, so around 5 times. So in Quebec, the minimum wage would allow you a salary of $24,000. So the richest individual in Quebec, according to this, shouldn't make more than 110 and 110K dollars per year. So do we need to pay people more? Maybe, but maybe not as much. And exactly, I will ask you this, that question: how much is enough? So if you go on Menti, so if we can put the screen here, so that will be easier to answer. So what would a comfortable annual salary be for you in euros? So I decided to use euros because if your currency is like 1,000 times the euros. Okay, so just shoot out whatever number feels like a comfortable annual salary. So maybe I primed the 100,000 in your mind. So someone wrote 10% more, so not willing to share. So you see that it ranges from more or less 40,000. The highest we have is our 200,000, and 100,000 seems to be the magical number. But you see, just asking you, what is an ideal salary? We have a huge discrepancy in those numbers. So how much is enough? So it seems to be around 100,000 euros. If we can switch back to the slides, please. So I ask you, how much is enough? And there's a very nice paper published with the Gallup World Poll. So they have a representative sample of 164 countries on Earth, where they show that, for example, these are the results for North America. There's a satiation point about money. There is something as I have enough. For positive emotions, negative emotions, and life satisfaction, the 3 subcomponents of subjective well-being, there seems to be a satiation effect between 65 to 105. And above it, it goes down. So it's like eating. Once you're full, you cannot eat more. Same with money. There seems to be a satiation point with a representative sample of 164 countries. Another question in the compensation industry is, should we give some bonuses? Marilyn Gagné presented nice results yesterday showing that it has no impact whatsoever. And there's also good research that just came out that when you put bonuses program within a company, medication consumption increases by 4%, okay? So let's see what are the results. This is a paper we published with Bart Cuvis and Robert Buch, and there's Desvic and Marilyn, where there was the base salary annual pay for performance, PFP stands for pay for performance, and the quarterly pay for performance. People in the compensation industry will tell you you need to make it clear that they're receiving the compensation they deserve, and you need to have it frequently. So basically, base salary increases autonomous motivation, which increases effort. And the bonuses, what they do is they increase controlled motivation. There's a slight effect with effort, but the more you pay and the more frequently you pay, the more people will want to leave. That's the exact opposite what you want to do. And also, the annual pay for performance has a negative effect on autonomous motivation. So on that slide, you have all the relations. So with this and also the meta-analysis by DC, Kessner, Ryan, or Sarah Zoli, there seemed to be something like the undermining or the over-justification effect, at least with those bonuses. And interestingly enough, these results were holding whatever the amount of bonus the people were given. Which brings us to what are the functional meaning of rewards? In SDT, it states that the reward you get has a significance. And that's what Anaïs Thibault-Landry, my PhD student, did. She measured the informative versus controlling aspect of bonuses. In the first paper I showed you, we just asked, did you receive bonus? But not what does that bonus means to you? So for informative items, we had, for example, my boss encourages me to work when he gives me a cash reward. My boss provides me with positive feedback when he gives me a cash reward. And controlling, try to motivate me. The only reason my boss rewards me financially is to make me work harder. So we measured both, and I'll show you what it leads to. So here you have the complete path from the meaning of reward, the two different needs, autonomy, competence, because they are usually the most proximal in the work setting, motivation, and some outcomes. So there seems to be a positive path when money is informational. But when it's controlling, when it's perceived as controlling, it seems to increase the negative path. And there's also a crossover effect. So using this, bonuses which are informational signals you that it has somewhat of an effect. There's no effect directly on competence, but it increases well-being, it decreases ill-being, and also it decreases organizational deviance. We did a second study with different outcomes, and we more or less have the same results where it gets channeled through autonomy, and you can see that controlling meaning of cash rewards had a negative effect on competence satisfaction. And the outcomes on the right-hand side, we had well-being, in-role effort, extra-role effort, commitment, and intention to stay. So are bonuses bad? If they are controlling, yes. If they are informative, it seems to be somewhat contributing to optimal functioning. Okay, my last but not least Menti question. In one word, can we put the Menti question? Okay, in one word, what does money mean to you? Only one word. First thing that pops into mind, what money is for you. So freedom, security, shopping, comfort, choice, independency. Okay, necessity, independence, survival. So we can see that with the same amount or the same salary, it has a different meaning. Money means different things for different individuals. So freedom, fun, and security seem to be the big winner. Okay, but you see that money has different meanings, and we don't ask ourselves this question in SDT. I think at least not enough. So if we can go back to the slide. The problem with extrinsic motivation, and we've seen that with Anya van den Broek's presentation, that it's not always clear, does extrinsic motivation leads to positive or negative outcomes? And I think it's because we're just asking people, do you want to make money? Versus, why do you want to make money? So that's a paper we published in 2016 with, again, Anaïs, where we went in the literature to see are there any scales that measure the different meaning of money? Why do you want to make money? And we're able to find one. It's not perfect, but that's how it got out. So stability motives, family, and security. We had in the word cloud security. Those are two topics which fits together. Then the integrated motives are charity, willingness to make money to give some. Equity, fairness, having a fair salary for your job. Liberty, leisure, and pride. Okay, so you had more or less those words in the word cloud. Then you have the non-integrated motives, which are impulsivity, social comparison, and overcoming self-doubt. I'll give you examples later on. So there's a positive channel of money. So wanting to do money for integrated reasons increases well-being, while non-integrated motives have a negative effect, but with the measures we had, family and security didn't have any effect. And you also have some negative crossover effect with the total model looking like this. So there's a positive path about money and a negative path about money. And using this, we said, okay, if there are positive motives and negative motives, can we act on them? Because is it something which is stuck in concrete, or can we intervene on this? So with Lara Manganelli, my PhD student, we had an intervention, and we copied more or less what Dr. Brown did on mindfulness, which decreases financial desire discrepancy. And there was also Dr. Kasser who did an intervention study. And we started, that's the first slide we show, with the bling bling on the, I like that sign. We say to people, we're not doing a financial literacy training. We are assessing what's in your mind when you think about money, more or less what you did with one word about money. So we start by asking people to fill in a paper and pen questionnaire, then they transpose their results. And there on 2 sheets of paper, and if people are interested, I can share this with you, we transform the score we had in the research in percentiles, and then you can know if you're high, medium, or low on those 10 different motives for making money, not knowing if they're good or bad. So after that, we show them what it is. So impulsivity is willingness to have money, to spend it without thinking. Overcoming self-doubt is using money to prove yourself that you are worthy enough in life. Then you have social comparison, wanting the inflatable neighbor syndrome, where you always want more than your neighbor, being better. Then you have security, having enough money to pay for the bills. Leisure, you can buy happiness, but you can buy a bike, and that's pretty close, so that's me biking. Leisure. Then charity, willingness to have money to give it to others. Liberty, freedom. Equity, fairness, having a fair salary for your job within your company and compared to the market. Pride, family. And so what we do in that 3-hour training is that we go through each and every motives to exemplify that there's a negative cycle about money. If you have non-integrated motives, that leads to unhealthy spending, which would increase psychological need, frustration. There should be a positive cycle about money, where integrated motives leads to healthy spending, which would then increase psychological need satisfaction. We want to break the negative cycle and increase the positive cycle. At the end of that training, we use 4 different strategies, which are based on a really good book called Happy Money. So we ask people to write a contract to themselves, doing 2 activities for each of those 4 strategies. Spend on others, so pro-social spending. Second, buy experiences, not material. The third one is buy time with your money. For example, when you pay someone to clean your home because it's boring, so you take back your time. And finally, invest in security. And right before coming in, Lara did the analyses. And what we were able to show is that it decreases the negative motives, but the integrated motives didn't have a change. So we can act on this. So as a conclusion, money is a tool. Use it wisely. In SDT, we are seen from the outside as thinking that money is evil and dangerous, but don't be afraid to talk and investigate the underlying meaning of money. There is such a thing as a satiation point for money. We now have data showing that there is an enough type of salary. Unjustified differences in salaries are never good. Bonus can either be informative and or controlling. Extrinsic motivation is not necessarily equal to why do you want to make money, so that might be a future avenue to investigate a little bit more. And you can intervene on the motives for making money. Some future avenues, I think that SDT is the best theory to talk about universal basic income, so if people want to do research on this, come and see me. Another thing I think is full transparency, like where all the salaries are known to everyone. So that's a continuum and pace transparency. I think that would be a nice avenue. So I want to leave you with a quote by Susan Fowler, who's in the room here, who has written a very nice book, Why Motivating People Doesn't Work and What Does. So challenge the belief that the purpose of business is to make money and consider an optimal motivation point of view. The purpose of business is to serve both your people and your customers. Profit is a byproduct of doing those well. So I invite you to invite me on LinkedIn and ResearchGate, and I thank you for your attention.